Hey, this is Brian Crecente, news editor at Polygon. We got our hands on a PlayStation 4 controller early, and we decided it'd be fun to see how this controller works with a whole bunch of devices. First up, the PC. What we have here is a Vita PC laptop. Of course, we have the PlayStation 4 controller. And you're going to want to pick one of these up because it does not come with your controller if you buy it separately. This is a micro USB. The micro USB is used to power your PS4 controller and occasionally will also be used to link up with your device, depending on what system you're using. All right, with the laptop, what you're going to want to do is go into devices and printers. Now, to get the PS4 to sync with the device, what we've discovered is that you have to push the PlayStation 4 button and the share button and hold them in for a few seconds. What will happen is this light on the back will start this sort of double light heartbeat, this sort of flash. So now that means that it's ready to sync. So you go into your computer and you say add a device. And what will happen is the laptop will start doing a search, and there it is. It discovers it as a wireless controller, a game controller. So I'm going to go ahead and launch up Big Picture Mode on Steam, and there it is. It's working. I'm going to go ahead and go into a game here, and there we go. We are playing the game. So as you can see, it's super simple to set things up on the PC. It took me about a minute. It works great with Steam. Steam has some key mapping support, which is fantastic. Next up is the Mac. Okay, once you launch Big Picture Mode, something a little different with the Mac. You can't just use the Bluetooth. So it's synced using Bluetooth, but you actually have to use the cable. I go ahead and plug it in, and now it's working. So as you can see, with the cord, you can just drop into these games and start playing. It's pretty cool, works really well. But again, make sure you keep your controller plugged in because as soon as you unplug it, it stops working. Next up, the PlayStation Vita. It's a PlayStation device, so you would think it would work with the PS4 controller. We're going to give that a try. To sync this up, what you want to do is go into Devices, and then go to Bluetooth Devices, and then you want to start the syncing process with the PS4 controller. And you'll see that a wireless controller does pop up on the screen. It doesn't say PS4 controller, just wireless controller. And when it tries to sync, it comes up with this message, could not find a profile supported by the PS Vita system. I would think that if Sony wanted to, it'd be very easy for them to roll out an update for the Vita to make this work. So hopefully that's something we'll see once the PS4 rolls out. Next up, we're going to try this with an iPhone. So you just hop into Settings and go into Bluetooth, and then you go to your PS4 controller and start that process. Now it is ready to be paired. And I will sit here quietly, and it will never, ever, ever, ever pair because the Apple doesn't like the PlayStation 4 controller. Next up, we wanted to see if the PlayStation 4 controller would work with an Android device. We tried the Nexus 7. So we hop into Settings, go into Bluetooth, and then as with all the other devices, you have to turn on syncing, and it should pop up here. So you've got wireless controller showing up. Touch on that. It goes through pairing. This is where you get super excited because you're like, is it gonna work? It does work. Problem is, it doesn't do anything. So it's paired, but we couldn't find any apps, any games, anything that would work with the controller even when it's paired. Perhaps you could do some mods or hacks to get it to work, but out of the box, it seems like there's no way to get any games to work on this thing. All right, next up, the Ouya, the Android micro console. Turns out Bluetooth we couldn't get to work, which I guess isn't that surprising because Bluetooth has had a lot of problems with Ouya. But we can get this thing to work if you use USB. So once you plug in your USB cord, it just finds it immediately and it allows you to go straight into the game. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop in here and play something. Unlike the PS4 controller, the PS3 controller allows you to use either Bluetooth or the cable. This one, you can only do it with the cable. But once you sync it up, it works really well. What about a next-gen console with a next-gen controller? We're gonna test this out on the Wii U. So with the Wii U, the way you get this to work is by pressing a sync button on the front. So now it's syncing. In theory, the Wii U is looking for the device, but it doesn't find it. All right, the Xbox 360. Now, you wouldn't expect the PlayStation 4 controller to work with the Xbox 360, and we're gonna check and see if you're right. There's no way to really do a Bluetooth search for a controller, so what I'm gonna do is try using USB Okay, it plugs in, it lights up. That's all it does. You unplug the Xbox 360 controller, still nothing. So I couldn't get this to work. Now, you may have seen that there's a video online that shows the PlayStation 4 controller working with the Xbox 360. However, that requires a little bit of software and also a dongle that you have to go online and buy. We don't have that in the offices, so we weren't able to test that out, but I can tell you that without that, it certainly doesn't work. All right, time for the PlayStation 3. This should be a no-brainer. It's a PlayStation 4 controller, so why shouldn't it work on the PlayStation 3? What we discovered on these tests is that Bluetooth, for whatever reason, does not actually work on the controller. So it'll discover it, but it won't let me register it. And the good news is that it does work with the wire. The bad news is not all games work with it, which is, again, kind of baffling. So here we are in Twisted Metal, and as you can see, the game works fine. There are a couple of things that don't work with the controller, specifically the touchpad, which, of course, the PS3 controller doesn't have. Another thing that we notice is that the PlayStation Home button does nothing, which is a little weird. Also, the PlayStation 4 got rid of its start and select buttons and replace them with the share and options. Options is supposed to be both the start and select button. So when you press that, it behaves like the start button. When you press share, it does funky things. It zooms in and zooms out. All right, Grand Theft Auto 5, one of the largest entertainment releases in history, does not function with the PlayStation 4 controller. Of course, it isn't designed for the PlayStation 4 controller, but it's a little weird because Twisted Metal does. What we found in our testing was that some games did work, some games didn't. We even found one EA Sports game that worked and one EA Sports game that didn't. Seemingly, this is random. The good news is that the PlayStation 4 controller is out now, and frankly, it's one of the best controllers I've ever used for gaming. So if you want to use this outside of even the PS4, you can buy it for PC, Mac gaming, or some other stuff. It's fantastic. Now stay tuned to Polygon as we continue our next-gen coverage, where you'll see a lot more stuff about the PS4 and a lot of stuff about the Xbox One.